All right, so today we're diving into a name that's basically become shorthand for genius, Albert Einstein. But here's the thing. The real story of the man behind that famous picture is way more complex, and honestly, more fascinating than you probably think. We're going to peel back the layers of the myth to get to the real person. So let's jump right in. I bet an image just popped in your head, right? Wild gray hair, that kind of mischievous look, maybe even the tongue sticking out. That's just how powerful the Einstein icon is. But it makes you wonder, was he just born a genius? Or was he, a regular guy with his own problems, his own rebellious side?
And that's where the story gets really interesting, because it's packed with contradictions. I mean, how does a kid so quiet that his friends actually call him Brother Boring, grow up to become the global symbol for genius? That gap, right there, that's where the real story lives.
And get this, it wasn't just the kids. That quote, that came from his headmaster, one of his own teachers. It just goes to show, right? People who change the world don't exactly come with a sign around their neck. So the big question is, how did this kid, the one everyone had already written off, end up, changing everything?
Okay, so let's rewind and start right at the beginning. His early life, it was definitely a little odd, full of strange signs. But you'll see that pretty much none of them screamed future genius.
I mean, if you look at the facts of his childhood, prodigy is not the word that comes to mind. He was born in Ulm, Germany, and right from the start, his own mom thought he was a bit of a freak because his head seemed way too big. He didn't even start talking until he was 2.5, and when he was around other kids, they just thought he was, boring. He mostly just kept to himself.
Okay, there's this one story that perfectly sums up what a unique kid he was. So his parents are, super worried that he isn't talking. Then one night, they're all at the dinner table, and out of nowhere, he just says, "The soup is too hot." His parents are stunned, but also so relieved. They ask him, "Why haven't you said anything until now?" And his answer is just pure Einstein logic, because up to now, everything was in order.
You see, he wasn't really fascinated by people. He was obsessed with how things worked. He absolutely loved mechanical toys. And you can see this perfectly when his baby sister, Maja, was born. He takes one look at her, and instead of saying how cute she is, he asks, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" Even as a little kid, he was already thinking like a physicist.
So yeah, it's pretty clear he wasn't your average kid. And that streak of not fitting in, it only got stronger as he hit his teenage years. This was a really important time for him, full of rebellion and even some romance, all of which really set the stage for the man he'd become.
Now, you've probably heard stories that he was a bad student, but that's not really true. He actually got good grades. The problem wasn't the subjects, it was the system. He absolutely hated the super strict, suffocating discipline at his school in Munich. He called it regimentation, and he was always butting heads with his teachers. It got so bad that at 15 years old, he felt so stifled, he just up and left the school. For good.
He ended up going to a much more relaxed school in Switzerland to finish his education, and that's where he met someone who just got him. Her name was Miliva Maric. She was a brilliant Serbian physics student, just as smart as he was. He saw her as his partner in crime, an ally against what he called the Philistines, all the stuffy people who didn't get new ideas. They fell in love, but his mom was totally against it. She thought Miliva was too old and too smart. She actually warned him, "She is a book like you."
So after university, you'd think things would take off, right? Nope. His path was anything but glamorous. And that brings us to what is, honestly, one of the most amazing parts of his whole life. His time as a humble patent clerk, where he was secretly cooking up a revolution right there in his desk drawer.
Life after graduation was a struggle, seriously. He's 21, he's got his degree, but he's unemployed. He's just scraping by, giving private lessons. It took him 2 whole years to finally land a steady job, and it wasn't some fancy university post. He became a technical expert at the patent office in Bern. His job was basically to look at other people's inventions all day.
So think about this. By day, he's looking at patents for, new kinds of mousetraps or whatever. But in his spare time, he's secretly working on ideas that would completely upend our understanding of the universe. He even had a little joke about it. He called his desk drawer the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. It was like his secret lab.
And all that secret work in his bureau, it all came to a head in one single year, 1905. Historians call it his Annus Mirabilis, his miracle year. Just think about it. He's only 26 years old. He's still working at the patent office, and he publishes 4 papers that literally change everything we thought we knew about light Energy, space, and time. Just incredible.
And inside one of those papers was, well, probably the most famous equation in the entire world, E equals mc squared. It revealed this hidden, fundamental link between mass and energy that nobody had even dreamed of before. This one, simple-looking formula, it was the key that unlocked a whole new era of physics.
Of course, the actual ideas, like his theory of relativity, are mind-bendingly complex. But here's another part of Einstein's genius. He was amazing at explaining things. He knew how to make these huge ideas feel understandable. This quote is the perfect example. It's his funny, brilliant way of explaining that time isn't this fixed thing we all experience the same way. It's relative.
So those papers that came out of that little desk drawer, they didn't just light a fire. They set off a bombshell in the scientific world. And this is the part of the story where we see him transform from this unknown patent clerk into a global superstar, the face of a scientific revolution. So the spark from 1905 just exploded over the next 10 years. In 1915, he drops his general theory of relativity, a totally new way to understand gravity. Then, in 1919, a solar eclipse happens, and astronomers see that, wow, his theory was right. The proof was right there in the stars. Newspapers everywhere went crazy, with headlines screaming about a scientific revolution. After that, the honors and invitations just poured in. And in 1921, he gets the Nobel Prize. The quiet patent clerk was officially a household name.
But the story doesn't stop there. With him being a famous scientist, in the last part of his life, his focus started to shift. He went from looking at the stars and the universe to looking at us, at humanity, and he became a really powerful and really important voice on the world stage.
This timeline really shows you just how quickly his life got tangled up in huge world events. So, 1933, the Nazis come to power. Einstein, being Jewish, has to flee Germany and emigrates to the US. Then, 5 years later, in 1938, scientists in Berlin discover nuclear fission, and all the physicists who had escaped from Europe were horrified. They knew exactly what this could lead to in the wrong hands. And who do they turn to for help? They turn to Einstein.
So, one of his colleagues basically begs him to do something. And in August of 1939, Einstein writes this incredibly famous letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and he does not hold back. He lays it out plain and simple, warning him that the Nazis could be on the path to building a bomb with terrifying, unimaginable power. That letter, it worked. It was a major factor that pushed the U.S. to start its own project to build the bomb first.
But then, in 1945, when the U.S. dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Einstein was just devastated. He was deeply shaken by what had happened, and he felt the heavy weight of the part he had played, even indirectly. This time he wrote another letter, a public one, not just to one president, but to the whole world through the United Nations. He actually proposed creating a world government to control this awful technology and make sure a war like that could never happen again.
And that's what he did for the rest of his life. He fought tirelessly for peace, for democracy, for an end to the buildup of nuclear weapons. His focus went so far beyond just physics. Which brings us to a word that really captures this final chapter of his life: visionary. It's someone who can think about the future, but in a way that's totally original and deeply intelligent.
So in the end, when he died in 1955, Albert Einstein wasn't just celebrated as the guy who figured out the universe from a desk drawer. He was remembered as a true visionary, a citizen of the world. He had this incredible mind, yeah, but it was matched by this deep, deep concern for all of us, for humanity. His whole life really shows us that genius, it isn't just about being smart. It's about what you do with that intelligence. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who are the other beautiful minds out there that maybe we've been overlooking?